Hi there. I hope you're all well and we're getting used to this new way of learning. We're going to be looking at addition and subtraction of fractions today. So I'm going to start by screen sharing. Just bringing up the PowerPoint for today. Okay. Now, this will also be on your Google Classroom as slides, and once this is uploaded, the link for this session will also be contained in there, but obviously it's not been uploaded as yet. So we're going to be looking at addition and subtraction of fractions and mixed numbers. Okay, as usual, you're going to put all of this work in your class workbook. You're going to copy down all the key information. Key points are shown in pink, but also any videos that I send, that I go through where I'm writing things down, I expect you to be copying those down as well. You're going to carry out your independent work. You're going to mark it and correct it as necessary with a green pen. And you're going to take photos and upload your work onto Google Classroom at 11:15. And I have to say, I was really, really impressed this morning with the number of people who got their work in to an excellent quality and on time. So great start, absolutely fantastic start, guys. Okay, as always, any problems, you can send me a message on Google Classroom. And as many of you are doing today as well, there's also the live chat function that you can add any questions there. All right, so in total, you're going to be doing about 2 hours work to take us up to 11:15. And this starter is going to take you approximately 10 minutes. So I'm just going to set that up now. Okay, your time is up. Right, let's look at the solutions to these. I'll talk them through briefly with you and display the answers. They are quite tricky. Remember, we need to be using the balancing method. Always use the balancing method to solve equations such as these. Okay, question 1. We've got a negative 9 plus 4a. We need to get the 4a on its own. So we need to add 9 to both sides. 4a equals 20. Finally, we need to divide. That should be a divide sign. It's not come up very clearly. Divide both sides by 4. A equals 5. Question 2, same thing. But this time we've got the a over here on the left-hand side as 3a, but also over here. Now, it doesn't matter which order you do it in. You can look at the 10 first, or you can look at the a first. In this case, I've subtracted 10 from both sides first to isolate this 3a on its own here on the left-hand side. Now equals a subtract 19. Now I need to subtract a from both sides. That's going to give me 2a equals negative 19. And again, apologies, this is a divide sign. It's not come up clearly on the screen. We're dividing both sides by 2 because we've got 2a. We want half of 2a, which is just a, is negative 19 divided by 2. It's absolutely fine to leave that as an improper fraction. You do not need to convert it into a mixed number. Question 3. Again, pause at any time if you need more time, if you need to go back. We've got y on both sides. So ideally, I want my y to be positive. So I'm going to add 2y to both sides rather than subtracting 5y from both sides. So I've added 2y to both sides. I've got 24 on the left-hand side and 10 plus 7y on the right-hand side. I now need to subtract 10 from both sides so that I can get the 7y on its own. So 14 equals 7y. My last step, again, apologies, those division signs are not coming up at all. I'm dividing both sides by 7, which gives me y equals 2. Okay, y equals 2. Question 4. There's 2 different options here. I've got a solution shown in blue and a solution in green. You're going to get the same answer, but let me just show you the different methods. Most people tend to choose the blue method, where we expand the single brackets first. So I've got negative 8y subtract 28. I then add 8y to both sides. I'm doing that because really I want to be working with a positive y, not a negative y. If you leave the y as negative, that's fine, but then at the end you've got to multiply by negative 1 to turn that negative y positive. Okay, so I've got 12 plus 8y equals negative 28. I'm now subtracting my 12 from both sides. 8y is negative 40. So if 8y is negative 40, again, this is a division sign, divide by 8, divide by 8, y equals negative 40 over 8, y equals negative 5. Now, the other option is that you don't expand this single bracket here, and as your first step in solving the equation, you divide by negative 4. You're dividing by this negative 4. Again, that's a divide sign. Divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. So on this side, I've now got negative 3. On the right-hand side, I've got 2y plus 7 because I've taken away what was outside the brackets. I can now subtract 7 from both sides. So negative 10 equals 2y. And that final step again, dividing by 2 gives me y equals negative 5. Let's look at that last question. Okay, so the safest thing to do with a question like this, now I know some of you might look at using trial and improvement to come up with a solution for a question like this and trying different numbers until you can find numbers that work. The safest way to do it is algebraically, particularly if you are given a question where the answer isn't a whole number. So I have decided that Roshan is X years old. I don't know what X is, but I know that he's X years old. You can use any letter you want. I've chosen X. But I do know that Tim is 8 years older than Roshan. So that means that Tim's age here, look, there's Roshan's age, X, but Tim's age is 8 more than Roshan. So it's X plus 8. And I'm told in the question that the sum of their ages is 54. So if I add those together, I get 2x plus 8 equals 54. So here I have formed the equation. Here I have simplified the question. And now I'm going to solve the equation using the balancing method. Firstly, by subtracting 8 from both sides, which gives me 2x equals 46. Once again, it's not picked up the dots in the division sign, so apologies. 2x divided by 2 gives me x. 46 divided by 2 gives me 23 years. Okay, Roshan is 23. Always go back and read the question again. In this case, you've got the correct answer. But if the question had asked you, instead of finding Roshan's age, to find Tim's age, you'd need to remember to then add the 8 years back on to get Tim's age, which would, of course, be 31. All good. Okay, so we're going to watch this video now. Hopefully this link will work. If not, I can bring it up separately. I want you to write down everything in this video. This is going to provide you with the core information that you need for addition and subtraction. Do not worry about the date. Today we're going to look at addition and subtraction of fractions. We're going to start with addition, and the simplest type of addition of fractions is when two fractions have the same denominator. I'm going to give you an example here. So if we have 1/5 and we're adding 2/5, the denominator is the same. So we keep the denominator as 5. That means that our whole has been split into 5 pieces. If it's a pizza, it's been cut into 5 slices. And then we add the numerator. We have 1/5 and 2/5. So that gives us 3/5. Let's see what that would look like if we drew it. Okay, here is my shape. I'm going to split it into fifths. 5/5 makes a whole. I start with 1/5. I add 2/5, and you can see visually that I now have 3/5. Okay, nice and straightforward. Okay, however, if I have 3/4 and I need to add 5/8, I need to make the denominator the same. My pizza needs to be cut into the same number of slices. Now, luckily, because 4 is a factor of 8, I can make my denominator 8. So 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. We've done equivalent fractions. I've doubled my denominator here to get from 4 to 8. I've doubled my numerator to get from 3 to 6. I then add 5/8, and that gives me 11/8. Okay, now we've previously done converting between improper fractions and mixed numbers. So to convert that into a mixed number, how many times does 8 go into 11? It goes in once, remainder 3. So we have 1 whole and 3/8. Let's just do one more. Okay, I've now got 3/8 and I'm going to add 1/6. Now this time 6 is not a factor of 8, so I need to find a common denominator. Now, one way of finding a common denominator is to multiply my two denominators together, which would give me 48. However, if possible, I want to find the lowest common denominator. So I would look at the multiples of 6 and the multiples of 8 to see the smallest number that is a multiple of both, and I would get 24. 8 multiplied by 3 gives me 24, so 3 multiplied by 3 gives me 9. 6 multiplied by 4 gives me 24, and 1 multiplied by 4 gives me 4. Now my denominator is the same. I leave my denominator as 24. I add my numerator. I have 13 over 24, sorry, and I cannot simplify that. So that is my final answer. Okay, now, one more thing. If we're looking at mixed numbers, so for example, I have 3½ and I'm adding 4 3/5. There are two methods, okay? The first one, now this only applies to addition. This doesn't always work for subtraction. So method 1 is I'm just going to rewrite this as 3 plus 1/2 plus 4 plus 3/5. Okay, I know that addition is commutative, so I can change the order. So I can write this as 3 plus 4 plus 1/2 plus 3/5. Okay, I know that 3 plus 4 gives me 7. And now I've got 1/2 plus 3/5. I need to find a common denominator. In this case, my common denominator is 10. So I've got 7 plus 5/10 plus 6/10. That is now going to give me 7 plus 11/10. Now I know that 10 goes into 11 one time with 1 left over. So that's 11/10 I can write as 1 1/10. I can now add my 7 and my 1, and that's going to give me 8 1/10. Okay, that's method 1 for addition of fractions. I can also convert my mixed numbers into improper fractions. So my other option for question 4, let's do it over here. Okay, so remember let's write the question again. 3½ plus 4 3/5. 2 multiplied by 3 is 6, add 1 is 7/2. 4 multiplied by 5 gives me 20. 20 plus 3 gives me 23/5. Again, I need to make my common denominator 10. 2 multiplied by 5 gives me 10, so 7 multiplied by 5 gives me 35. 5 multiplied by 2 gives me 10. 23 multiplied by 2 gives me 46. I keep my denominator the same. I add my numerators. That's going to give me 81. Finally, 10 goes into 81 8 times, remainder 1. Two different methods for the same answer. Okay, let's quickly look now at some subtraction. It's very similar insofar as you need to have a common denominator before you can subtract one fraction from another. Okay, I'm going to keep the questions very, very similar to before. Okay, my first question, I've got 2/5 and I'm subtracting 1/5. Okay, I keep my denominator the same. And 2 subtract 1 gives me 1. Okay. Question 2. I have 3/4. And this time I'm going to subtract 5/8. I need to make my denominator the same. So my denominator is now 8 because 4 is a factor of 8. 4 multiplied by 2 gives me 8. 3 multiplied by 2 gives me 6. Subtract 5/8 gives me 1/8. Question 3. Okay, so now I have 3/8 and I'm going to subtract 1/6. I know from when we did it with addition that my lowest common denominator is 24. 8 multiplied by 3 gives me 24. 3 multiplied by 3 gives me 9. 6 multiplied by 4 gives me 24. And 1 multiplied by 4 gives me 4. I keep my denominator the same. 9 subtract 4 gives me 5/24, and I cannot simplify it. Finally, when we look at mixed numbers, we have 4 and 3/5, and we're subtracting 3 1/2. Okay? Now, technically with this particular example, I can demonstrate it with 2 different methods, but it's safest if we just work with one method. Okay, so I'm just going to say one method only. And our method is to use improper fractions. So let's have a look at this and see how it goes. So we've got 23/5, and we're subtracting 7/2. We need to have a common denominator. Again, the same as we did for addition. 10 is our common denominator. So we've got 46/10, subtract 35/10. 46 subtract 35 leaves me with 11/10. How many times does 10 go into 11? Once, remainder 1. So our answer is 1 1/10. Okay, thank you. Let's get rid of the screen share and bring back our PowerPoint again. So if the resolution, or there was any problem in being able to see that, then you have got the YouTube link here, and that link is on the slides that are on the Google Classroom as well. Okay, hope that all made sense. Let's move on. You've got 3 minutes to just do these 3 quick questions here. Off you go. Let's get started. Now remember, if you haven't already spotted it, 1 can be written as an equivalent fraction of 3 over 3. 3 can also be written as an equivalent fraction with 4 as the denominator, so the numerator would be 12, and so on. Okay, your time is up. Let's have a look at the solutions. So I would suggest for these, you would leave your answers as improper fractions, but I've shown you the other options as well. And I've also drawn them out to show you as well. So we've got a whole, we're subtracting 1/3, so we're left with 2/3. We've got 3, we're subtracting 1/4, we're still left, and you can see visually, with 2 3/4, or 11 over 4. Same for question 5. Remember, with a question like that, you could have simplified the 3 over 12 to 1 over 4 to 1/4, just to make it a little bit easier. The answer there being 19 over 4, or 4 3/4. And then finally, you've got 1 3/8, or 11 over 8 for the 4th question. Okay, so you've got a further 3 minutes. You've got 2 questions to look at here. I want you to think really carefully about part B, and I want you to read the question. Make sure you're doing it the right way around. Okay, time's up. First one, fairly straightforward. Okay, we're adding 3/4 and 7/8. We make the denominator 8 and we end up with 13/8 or 1 5/8. However, part B, we've got to be really careful. We're subtracting 4/5 from 2/3. Okay, so we start with 2/3 and then we subtract the 4/5. It does mean that we result in a negative fraction of -2/15. I'm going to give you a further 3 minutes and 2 more questions. Okay, time's up. All right, so we've got 3/2 or 1.5 for part A, and part B, we've got 1/28. Let's keep going. Okay, I'm not going to go through this one. This was already covered in the YouTube video. As you know, now there are 2 different methods. You can add the whole numbers and then add the fractions, or you can convert them into improper fractions and then carry out the addition. Here's a question for you. Okay. Don't forget, if I've given you too much time, you can always fast forward the video to get to the solution. Okay, so we've got 10 and 1/6, irrespective of whether you add the whole numbers first or whether you convert them into improper fractions. Pause if you need more time, otherwise let's move on. Okay, I'm going to give you 20 minutes to work through the A column, okay? So you all know what I mean by the A column. You're going to work through the A column of these questions. So let me just talk through what's going to happen. You've got 20 minutes on this. Following that, I'm going to give you the answers. And following that, you've got a Hegarty Maths video to look at. Again, you can do that now, or you can do it as part of your homework. And then we'll be going on a break. Okay, so let's go back. You've now got 20 minutes to complete the A column only. I'm not going to time this. I'm just going to pause it, and then 20 minutes later, you can carry on. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you've spent 20 minutes on that now. Here are the answers. As I say, A column first. If you did get a chance to work through the B column as well, that's fantastic. The answers are there for you now. Pause it and mark and correct your work as necessary. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay, you've got your Hegarty Maths video number 65. As I say, do now, do later, and then you're going to be going on your break, 15 to 30 minutes, and then I'll see you back here. Okay, once you've taken your break, then let's carry on. Right, you've got approximately 45 minutes to work through the following questions. You got 10 minutes, everywhere I put it, it's in the wrong place. You got 10 minutes to work on these 3 challenge questions. Right, some challenging questions there. Let's go through them one at a time. If you need more time, again, please pause. I'm going to put the answers up now. Firstly, question 1. Okay. So we know that there are 210 white balls because we've subtracted the total of the yellow, orange and pink. We want the fraction of white balls. So we know that we've got 210 is the number of white balls over the total of 360. And then we can simplify that down firstly by dividing the numerator and denominator by 10 and then by 3. You could divide by 30 if you can work out that both of these numbers are multiples of 30. Okay. Second question. Really important that you read it very, very clearly. 1/6 of stores at a market sell food. And of those stalls that sell food, 2/3 of them sell fruit and vegetables. So the question is 2/3 of the food stalls and 1/6 of the stalls are food stalls. So it's 2/3 of 1/6. 2/3 of 1/6. Okay, we know that of can be replaced with a multiplication sign. So we end up with 2 over 18, multiplying out the numerators, multiplying out the denominators, gives us 2 over 18, which simplifies down to 1/9. We'll also be looking at multiplication of fractions this afternoon. So don't worry if that was a little bit challenging. Third question, pop in some numbers to try and make the largest possible total that you can. So you've got the numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you want the largest numbers here, okay? And you want the smallest numbers as your denominators. And you want the quarter to be here, or the 4 to be here to make a quarter. You want the 3 to be here to make 2/3. Doesn't matter whether you've got the 6 here and the 5 here, or the 5 and the 6. That doesn't make any difference at all. All right, you've got 20 minutes or whatever time you have got remaining to work through these questions. I'm not going to put the timer on. I'm going to leave you to work through these independently. For questions 11 and 12, just look at the A column and stop when you've run out of time. I don't expect you to go beyond the 2 hours. You've got the answers to those questions there. And then this is the second video that you'll be completing for Hegarty. Remember that this does not need to be completed today. You upload it as part of, so you complete it as part of your homework, which is due next week. That's it. So don't forget at 11:15, you're going to be taking a photograph of your work and uploading it onto the Google Classroom. Thank you once again. I'm sure it's been a fantastic session, and I'll be seeing you again this afternoon. Thank you.